Now, here's the exciting part about this, and this is where I get excited. You know, that doesn't just relate to people, to technology, that also relates to people. Because just like technology can change, so can people change. Let me ask you a question. Did your high school have a big dumb jock? I know who you're thinking of. He went to high school with me. He says, yeah, my high school had a big dumb jock. You're looking at him. And it's true. When our high school had a big dumb jock, I was him. You know, back then when it came time for studying, I had better things to do. The only thought I gave to my grades is, how can I explain these to the coach? Well, I graduated from high school, barely, and then went to a small college. All right, first I went to junior college for about a year and a half. Then I went to a small college, and I mean a small it was about the size of this podium here. That's how small the college was, all right? And I walked onto the basketball team, and I earned a full basketball scholarship. And I realized something. There weren't a whole lot of pro scouts at Wayland Baptist College looking for talent. So as quick as I walked on, I walked off. I transferred to Texas Tech University between my sophomore and junior year, and they did something I'll always appreciate them for. They transferred credits, but they didn't transfer grades. Everybody get that? Now y'all don't go transfer off to Texas Tech. You know, remember, you get a better education here than there, okay? So, but I was starting over. All of the goofing off and all of the bumming around that I did my first 2 years didn't matter. All I had to do, I figured this out. I said, you mean if I can keep a 3.5 average for the next 2 years, I can graduate cum laude? And if you would have known me back there, you would have said months, graduate. That would be a good goal, just graduate. But so I transferred down to Tech, and I started doing something I'd never done before. Studying. And you know what? It works. It's the most amazing thing. It works. In 2.5 years, I graduated with a 3.5. I graduated with honors, cum laude. I immediately went to graduate school. I wasn't burnt out on studying. I just started. And just a few years later, I had my PhD. The big dumb jock was Dr. Big Dumb Jock. Never forget, I was teaching at the University of Oklahoma, had PhD in hand, and I went back to my 10th year high school reunion. Did your high school have a Mr. Everything? Our high school had a Mr. Everything too, Mark Reedus. He was voted most popular guy in the school. He was all district running back 2 years in a row. He was he graduated academically in the top 20 of our class, not top 20%, but out of like 650 people, he was in the top 20. Now, Mark and I were pretty good friends. Like I was like a groomsman in his wedding, so we were fairly good friends, but we had lost touch over the years. So I went to my high school reunion. First thing I wanted to do is go up to Mark and go, hey, Mark, I got smart. But that would have kind of lost the effect. So, so I walk up to Mark, and I go, hey, Mark, how's it doing? We start a conversation, and I go, so what are you doing? He says, I'm in graduate school down in Dallas. He says, how about you, Muntz? I said, well, I'm teaching up at the University of Oklahoma. He looked at me like, dumb as always, didn't even get the question right. I said, no, really, Mark, I got my PhD from Texas Tech. Now I'm teaching up at the University of Oklahoma. I'll never forget the first words out of his mouth. He said, you are the last person I would have ever thought would have got a PhD. And just in case I missed it, he said it again. He said, you, Jim Muncie, the last person. I mean, you were there. I don't think anyone believed me. I mean, I'm glad I had Pat. Pat was my testimony. I said, really, Pat, come over here. Tell him I actually do have a PhD. I'm actually teaching at the University of Oklahoma. Promise, cross my heart. And they're going like, it's like one of those things that doesn't compute. What's wrong with this picture? Muncie, PhD. Muncie, professor. It did. Nobody believed it. Now, what would have happened if I would have gone back to high school and we were in those career classes and said, so what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do? What if I would have said, well, I want to be a professor? What would have they said? They'd say, come on, Muntz, be realistic. Because they knew that I was not PhD material, and they were absolutely right. The Jim Muncie that they knew was not PhD material. But I love what Zig Ziglar says. He says, I've got good news for you. You aren't stuck with you. All I had to do is make a decision to change. And when I made a decision to change, everything in my life changed. See, we don't have to be optimistic based on who we are. We can become optimistic based on who we can become. Every one of us can become pretty much the person we want to be, though it may require some change. Now, am I saying that we could do anything? No. Every one of us, there's some things we couldn't do. All right? I very seriously doubt if I will ride the winning horse in the Kentucky Derby. All right? I don't think at 6'5", 285 pounds, I'm racehorse jockey material. But you know what? So I can kind of knock that off my list of things that I can accomplish. But you know what? Even if I'm not a racehorse jockey, I can still accomplish some pretty good things. I can still live a pretty good life. You know, of the thousands and thousands and thousands of possible things that you could do, you could probably have the ability, the potential to do 95% of them. Okay, you can't choose from the full 100%, but you can be optimistic about the 95% if you're willing to do the work, you're willing to change, you're willing to be optimistic, and not let some, quote, realistic person blow your dream. The next key to success is responsibility. Think results, not reasons. See, here's the thing that I know about successful people. They take 100% full, complete responsibility for everything that they do. They're not thinking about passing off the blame. You know, if I were to say that there's one thing that disturbs me most about America today, it's that we have become so good at the blame game. It's not my fault, it's the government's fault. It's not my responsibility, it's the government's responsibility. It's not my fault, it's my family's fault. It's not my responsibility, it's my family's responsibility. It's not my, and everything. I love what Brian Tracy says. He says, if you think the problem is out there, or you think the solution is out there, that's your problem. If it is to be, it's up to me. You have to think results, not reasons. How can I, not how can somebody else.